everybody. This is Brian David Marshall coming to you from the Magic the Gathering World Championships in San Francisco. I'm here with Patrick, the Innovator Chapin. We're 4 rounds into the event. Patrick, you're sitting on a perfect record so far.
So far.
Well, maybe not so perfect. You've lost a game.
Yeah, I just lost a game.
To the surprise of exactly no one, you're playing Grixis.
Now, to be fair, I think 4-color control, it's a little bit 4-color control.
Right.
Which is, I guess, slightly below my mean, but...
Tell us a little bit about the deck. I mean, it's hard to not talk about this deck and start right here at a card. I don't know that this was on a lot of people's radar coming into the event, but you made an interesting comparison on this card.
Yeah, so Olivia, I mean, it is the new Baneslayer, but it does a lot of other things. It's like an Inferno Titan, where you can play it and immediately shoot things. It takes over the game by itself. I mean, it's the best Titan. It's the best 6, because it immediately threatens to steal the other Titans. Like, you can, if you play it as a 6, you can shoot something so that it's out, it has a 4 toughness and it's harder to kill, and then it threatens to steal anything.
How often do you actually steal something with Olivia?
You do sometimes, but more often it's the threat that is relevant, because if you have it in play, your opponent often will throw away all of his creatures just because you're going to threaten to steal them.
Sure.
And then you don't end up even needing to steal them. And sometimes it's the right play to just shoot them all so that they can't, get out of it by getting rid of the Olivia later.
I would assume a lot of time when you get in the position where you can start stealing creatures with Olivia, you probably get a lot of disconnects.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. The thing is, they can get it back if they kill Olivia, but often it doesn't matter, because once you steal something, you often kill them in one hit, because most of the time the things you're stealing are either Hero of Bladehold or all the 6s,
So talk a little bit about what led you to this deck. I mean, you had a pretty, amazing playtest group for this event.
Oh, very fortunate. Yeah, for this event, I mean, Alex West and I built this deck, but the group that we played, that we tested with, we had input from, we were testing with Zvi, Nassif, Jerry Thompson, Michael Jacob, Conrad Kolos, Adam Yurchik, Steve O'Mahony-Schwartz, John Finkel, Brian Kowal. I mean, it just goes on.
Bob Maher.
Bob Maher. Yeah. There's just
too many Hall of Famers to get them all in.
I'm surely forgetting several. I mean, like the everybody that was contributing this, Tom Martell. Like, there's a lot of people who had a lot of really good ideas, and even though different people ended up playing different strategies, having the input from everybody was just invaluable.
Yeah, and you basically said this was you came into this event wanting to play with the cards you love.
Right, so for the past couple of weeks, we weren't just like tuning this deck or anything, we were just experimenting with every different type of new card, and going into the last couple of weeks, what I kind of figured out was that the cards I really wanted to play with were Desperate Ravings, the Olivias that we talked about, Precursor Golem, and possibly Day of Judgment or Snapcaster Mage. And I tried playing with Day of Judgment and going kind of a 4-color route, but this is actually the more conservative mana base.
Your mana base is already, as you described it, ambitious.
Yeah. Desperate Ravings was a card that I can just tell by looking at it that it's better than Think Twice, but after having played with it more and thinking about it more, I realized this is the new preordain. Desperate Ravings is to Think Twice what Careful Consideration is to Inspiration. I think we're going to see a ton more of this card in every format. It's just absolutely amazing.
And now, I mean, and your deck doesn't want to do this, but even in decks, there are a lot of decks that want cards in their graveyard.
Yeah, I mean, we do it a little bit, because with Flashback, it's like you get an extra card. But the main thing, in some decks, if they have like a graveyard strategy, if they have a way to reanimate things, or if they have any kind of a card that works better in the graveyard. But the thing about Desperate Ravings is that it gets you more of what you don't already have, which is often what you want, because when you have what you want, you just play that.
So you're sitting on a handful of land.
Yeah, this upgrades your hand, and if you don't have enough land, this finds land for you. If you have the perfect mix, you don't have to do it. Just if you've got the perfect mix, you have the perfect mix.
You can just sit back and relax. Okay, so walk us through the deck.
All right, so we've got the interactive elements. There's a lot of early control, a light amount of permission with a lot more in the sideboard, some early removal, and sweepers. So just lots of defense, because we expected there to be a lot of white aggro decks. And then we've got extra card draw. The Ravings and the Alchemies let us,
it feels like this deck has more card draw than just about any deck in the format.
I think so. I mean, it's pretty close. Like, the blue-black control decks might have a little bit more, and that's actually one of the 2 matchups we have that's a little bit soft, just because they have so much card draw. But we have a much better game against some of the creature decks, just because we can use all our card draw to find the removal to buy us time to win with our bombs.
Okay.
And then that's the top is we have a variety of different bombs. I mean, Liliana is just an amazing planeswalker who can give us an advantage every turn and combines so well with the flashback cards.
And now, again, we've mostly seen Liliana show up in like the Solar Flare decks, where they want to have cards in their graveyard. How does this deck interact with you discarding? Again, I guess you have cards like Desperate Ravings and Forbidden Alchemy.
Yeah, absolutely. We still have some of the graveyard cards, but actually in this deck, it's mostly a Diabolic Edict.
Okay.
Because there's cards like Mirran Crusader and Hero of Bladehold. We want to have as many ways to kill creatures as possible, but if you just play with 20 ways to kill creatures that only kill creatures, you'll play against the control decks and have no chance. Liliana is exceptional against the control decks also. And then we have all the different creatures. We already talked about Olivia, but in Wurmcoil and Inferno Titan probably don't surprise anybody.
No, of course not.
I mean, they can take over the game by themselves. Precursor Golem is a card that's seen a little bit of play before, but it's super, super good in this format because most of the good removal people are playing, and people are playing cards like Oblivion Ring, Beast Within, Galvanic Blast, Gut Shot. I mean, these are all cards that are just terrible against Precursor Golem, and he completely takes over the game against somebody who can't kill him. We do board him out against people who have, like if you play against somebody who's playing, mono red where they have incinerates and stuff.
Sure.
But definitely a great card, and not just for this deck. This is a card that I think should go in tons and tons more decks.
Talk a little bit about the Snapcaster Mage, Tiago Chan's invitational card. What does this card do for you in this deck?
All right, so in this deck, we're mostly just using it to replay removal spells or to flashback Mana Leak, just to get an extra counterspell, because we don't have that much permission. But the other thing, outside of the fact that he gives you a spell, that he gives you a little bit more of whatever it is you want, the 2/1 body is actually relevant because it attacks planeswalkers, which are a little bit of a soft spot, and it gives us, you have to win somehow.
Sure.
And then it also trades with things. There's a ton of 1/1 and 2/2 creatures in this format. And it's just super powerful. I mean, it's the same thing with Liliana and Snapcaster. We're just playing with cards that are the best cards in the format.
Sure. Cards that equal extra cards. Talk about Devil's Play.
Yeah, okay, so Devil's Play is kind of a specialty thing. It is it's a halfway decent removal spell, early on, but it's a backup victory condition because one of the areas we really needed help against was against decks with Nephalia Drownyard. Because we don't have any way to get rid of land, they can just mill us out. So at least if we have a Devil's Play, it gives us a way so that they mill us into our victory condition. Because often we can strip their hand, and then they don't have a counterspell for the Devil's Play that kills them. And it's just a decent removal spell. It gives us a different angle, a different dimension, and it helps against planeswalkers, which we definitely need the help in.
All right, so walk us through your ambitious mana base, as you called it.
So the first thing is, people don't realize that when we're playing, they always think I have a lot more counterspells, but I try to play it looking like I'm a blue deck, but really, this is a black-red deck that's splashing blue. It's a very, it's much, much less blue. It's a black-red deck, and although we are also splashing green, which we have just a couple sources for the Ancient Grudges in the sideboard.
So you have Copperline Gorge and you have Shimmering Grotto.
Yeah, so Shimmering Grotto is a card not a lot of people really give a lot of respect to, and that's mostly because it's not very good. But I mean, desperate times call for desperate measures.
Sure.
I mean, the mana base in this format is definitely going to be a little bit sketchy.
You need some of your lands to not come into play tapped.
That's the other special ability it has. Yeah, it's kind of nice because we only have 10 land that come into play untapped, and so it's really nice to draw at least one because you want to have your 4th land actually untapped, And then, yeah, Sulfur Falls. So the Scars lands are just the best. I mean, the Scars lands are the best mana fixing in the format. Darkslick Shores and Blackcleave Cliffs. And then Sulfur Falls gives us a blue-red dual land. It's the only one available.
Right.
And then just a few Dragonskull Summit and a couple Drowned Catacombs round out, just giving us our colors. And even though our lands come into play tapped a little bit too often, it's much more important to have the right colors because we have cheap spells that can catch up on that tempo.
And how many lands does that come out to?
26 land. But part of the reason we can get away with only 26 land is because we have Ravings to help find land. Ravings is so good at digging for that 3rd or 4th land.
Right. So let's talk about the sideboard over here.
All right, so
I've seen you play a lot of these cards already in different matches to great effect.
Oh yeah. So I've been super happy with it so far. So we've got Curse of Death's Hold is primarily against all the different token making decks like the Moorland Haunt decks and the Gavoni Township decks, but it's also against people who have swords because they often have lots of 1 toughness creatures. Surgical Extraction is against Chandra's Phoenix, Snapcaster Mage, and particularly Solar Flare.
Sure.
And then, and also against control decks, you're just trying to take a counterspell out of their deck so you can set up a game-winning bomb. And then we just have a mixture of counter magic, depending on the matchup, just to let us tune things a little bit better. The one Dissipate is definitely, it can't go in everywhere you'd like just because we have so little blue mana.
Sure.
But against control decks and against Wolf Run, the matchups go long enough that you'll eventually draw a second blue.
What's the most counterspells you have in your deck at any one time?
7 against Wolf Run.
You'll just go all?
Yeah, against Wolf Run we play all 7. Then Slagstorm and Galvanic Blast are just more ways to tweak the main deck. Geistflame is another card against all the decks that have 1 toughness. You know,
Sure,
like
so the same way
especially illusions.
Same way we've seen people playing Gutshot or Ring Flash. I guess
Absolutely.
it fills that same role.
Yeah, and a lot of people love Gutshot right now. My deck actually has a lot of our deck has a lot of ways to play an untapped red mana, and we don't have any. We don't really have that many 1 casting cost spells, so we might as well get the value. We're not going to save the mana from Gutshot. And then finally, Ancient Grudge, superstar. I mean,
This card was amazing for you in round 1, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, against round 1 I played Brad Nelson, and he was playing Tempered Steel.
Oh.
So I just, you couldn't help but laugh.
Right. Rack and Ruin, Ashes.
Absolutely. And then actually last round I played against Mono Red and was able to destroy Shrine of Burning Rage.
Oh my gosh.
So it was just huge.
All right, well, you're off to an excellent start with this deck. You're 4-0. He's only dropped 1 game. I'm really excited to see this. Now, do you think, you said that you think this deck, while it's the deck you want to play this week, you're saying it might change in the coming weeks?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely set up, like, we anticipated what we thought, what the metagame would look like this week. And so we're very tuned against, white aggro and illusions and the different decks that we thought would be, more or less here this weekend. I definitely think things have to change around a little bit. And I don't think it's the style for everyone. I mean,
Sure.
It's like 5-color control decks where you have to keep adapting them each week. I do think that there's a lot of lessons to be learned from this. First, I think that there will be a Grixis deck going forward. And then I really think that Olivia and Desperate Ravings and Precursor Golem are all going to see a ton more play in the future.
Okay.
There's one other card. Sorry,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
one other card we missed. That's important. Mimic Vat was a last-second addition. Sam Black realized we were looking for an ace against a blue-black control deck that can't get rid of artifacts. Mimic Vat just gives us it's like a planeswalker that they can't really interact with, and it actually interacts well with all the cards that that are important going to the graveyard. Like Scab Ruinator or anything like that. But the big thing is just as another threat against control. Anyway, sorry.
No, great. I'm glad we got all the cards. We've talked about them all. We're going to let you get back. They're about to put up pairings for round 5. So for Patrick Chapin, this is Brian David Marshall signing off from the Tournament Center.